The drawer slid open with a soft hiss, and Ella saw it, her late mother's photograph lying on top of a velvet scarf, smiling up at her from Boss Lady Victoria's private desk. It was the same photo Ella kept under her pillow back in the workers' quarters. Her mother, Ruth, in a blue Sunday dress, eyes bright like morning water, a small scar under her left eyebrow. Ella's hands trembled. She picked it up to be sure. The edges were bent the exact same way. The back had the same faded ink. Ruth. Sun after the rain. Before she could breathe, the study door clicked. Boss Lady Victoria stepped in, heels tapping like a small drum. She saw the photo in Ella's fingers, and all the light drained from her face. Her red lips parted. She reached out too quickly, like someone grabbing a falling baby or a hot pot, and whispered a name that did not belong to Ella. Sunrise? The word hung in the air like smoke. Then, from the hallway, a phone rang and a deep male voice shouted, "Ma'am, they're here!" Victoria's eyes snapped to the door, then back to the picture, then to Ella, and she said in a voice that sounded afraid and fierce at the same time, "Whatever you do, do not let them see that photo." The air went still. Who were they? Why did the photo matter? Ella clutched it to her chest. Her heart pounded so loud she wondered if the men in the hall could hear it. A horn honked in the driveway outside like a warning. Victoria moved fast, crossed the room, and pushed the drawer shut with the back of her hand. Her perfume smelled like gardenias in the first rain. "Give it to me," she said. But Ella held the picture tighter, too shocked to speak. At that moment, the study door turned again, someone testing the handle. Victoria pressed a finger to her lips and mouthed, "Not now." The handle stilled, and the footsteps faded. The boss lady's eyes filled with something sharp and wet, as if a secret had scratched the inside of her heart. "Ella," she whispered, "listen to me." The door handle twisted a second time, harder. Now, the story must step back like the tide, so we can see how the sand was shaped before the wave crashed. It started many weeks ago, when Ella came to work at the Hayes residence on the hill that looked over the town like a quiet king. The house had walls the color of cream and a gate that opened only after a camera blinked its metal eye. People in the town called it the big house with the silent fountain, because the water in the stone bowl at the front never ran. It only held lilies that floated like sleeping stars. Ella was 17, tall for her age, with a neat bun and quick hands. She arrived with a small bag, 2 dresses, a pair of flat shoes, and the old photograph of her mother tucked between the pages of a children's Bible. The agency lady had said, "Be respectful, do your work, keep your head down." Ella understood. She needed the job. Her mother, Ruth, had passed away when Ella was 9, and the only family left was an uncle who drank sadness like tea and forgot birthdays, like losing coins from a hole in his pocket. Ella had learned to pour kindness into small bowls, washing dishes before she was asked, sweeping the room twice, and saving the last piece of bread for someone else. Boss Lady Victoria Hayes was known for 2 things in town, her silk scarves and her strong eyes. She ran a clothing shop on Maple Street where mannequins wore bright dresses that swayed even without wind. She spoke softly when she wanted to, and firmly when she needed to. Some people said she had a heart like a locked box. Others said she gave quietly to the church and paid school fees for the children of the night guard who never asked. No one knew which story was truer. In the kitchen, the older cook, Mrs. Dot, told Ella, "A kind hand can be hidden under a hard glove. Watch, learn, and do not gossip." Ella nodded. She was there to work, to send money to her uncle's wife so the little cousins could eat beans with their rice. Work began before sunrise. Ella learned the rhythm of the big house like a song. Sheets by 6, floors by 7, breakfast by 7:30, errands by 9. She learned Victoria's teacup, white with a thin gold ring, and her teaspoon, the one with a tiny tulip on the handle. She learned the way life can sound busy but feel lonely. In the quiet times, Ella hummed the lullaby her mother used to sing, "Little river, carry me home." She sang it under her breath so only the broom could hear. One afternoon, while dusting the study, Ella saw the desk drawer slightly open. It was the same drawer Victoria always locked. The key was still in the keyhole, like a blinking eye that had forgotten to close. Ella almost ignored it. Good workers do not pry. But the wind coming through the open window made the drawer breathe in and out, like it was calling her name. She pushed it shut with her fingers. but then stopped when she saw a corner of a photograph peeking out, a familiar blue, a familiar smile. Her own mother's face, it seemed, hiding in the boss lady's drawer as if it had found a home there. Ella blinked back tears. She told herself, "No, I am imagining things." She closed the drawer, locked it, and kept working. When Victoria returned that evening, Ella watched the boss lady move around the study. The woman's hands lingered on that drawer longer than the others, as if feeling for a heartbeat inside wood. Ella wanted to ask, "Do you know my mother?" But her courage was a small bird. It flapped, then settled again. The days rolled like wheels. Victoria began to notice Ella's careful ways. One morning, the boss lady came to the kitchen early and found Ella packing leftover pancakes in foil for the security guard's little boy, Tommy. "Why are you doing that?" Victoria asked. Ella smiled shyly. "Tommy said he never tasted pancakes before." Victoria's face softened, the way clouds move away from the sun for a second. "Make sure he says thank you to Mrs. Dot for the batter," she said, and left. Little kindnesses grew in the house like tiny flowers in sidewalk cracks. When the delivery man came late in the rain, Ella gave him a dry towel. When the gardener slipped, she brought the first aid box. When a stray cat meowed by the gate at night, she set down a saucer of milk. Even the silent fountain seemed to watch her, wondering if it might one day speak again. But the house also had hushes that felt heavy, like secrets that didn't want light. Some evenings, Victoria took phone calls in the study with the door closed. Her voice would rise, then fall, then go quiet. After the calls, she would walk the halls as if counting her steps to make sure the numbers still made sense. She told no one why the fountain was always still. She kept the key to the study drawer on a thin gold chain around her neck, tucked under her blouse as carefully as a mother tucks in a sleeping child. Ella noticed, and again the small bird of courage flapped inside her chest. Then came the day of the photograph, the day that began with laughter and ended with a word that tasted like fear. That morning, the town held its harvest fair at the park by the old oak tree. Victoria took a basket of scarves to donate to the church fundraiser. Ella carried the basket and walked behind her. Children ran past with balloons and sticky fingers. An old woman sold roasted corn and hummed an old proverb. "Kindness is the seed. Heaven is the rain." A man with a wide hat told Ella, "A story is like a road. Walk it with open eyes." She smiled. On their way back to the car, a gust of wind lifted a scarf out of the basket, and Ella chased it. The scarf landed at the feet of a tall man in a gray suit with a hawk's nose and eyes that flicked like knives. He lifted the scarf with 2 fingers and looked at Victoria as if measuring her. "Mrs. Hayes," he said smoothly, "you have something of mine." Victoria's face tightened. "Not today, Mr. Crane," she answered. "We'll settle accounts soon." The man's smile did not reach his eyes. He tipped his hat and walked away. Ella thought about that man all the way home. Who was he? Why did he make the boss lady's voice turn to glass? Back at the house, the afternoon fell gentle and warm. Victoria went to take a call. Mrs. Dot sent Ella to dust the study. The window was open, the wind plush and kind. The key was in the drawer again. How strange. Ella told herself to be a rock, steady, quiet, unmoving. But the corner of that photo peeped out again, and rocks do not have mothers. Girls do. With a breath that felt like a step into a deep river, Ella pulled the drawer open just enough to free the picture. Her knees went soft. It was her mother. It was Ruth. The blue dress, the bright eyes, the little scar under the brow from when a goat butted her in the market when she was a girl. Ella's vision blurred. She kissed the edge of the paper. Then the door clicked, and Victoria walked in, and the word sunrise fell from her mouth like a name that remembered itself. In that single moment, everything turned hot. The car horn outside, the shout from the hall, the turning door handle. "Whatever you do not let them see that photo," Victoria said. Ella's voice came out tiny. "Why do you have my mother's picture?" The boss lady's jaw worked as if she were chewing on a truth too hard to swallow. For the first time since Ella met her, Victoria looked smaller than her silk scarves. "Because," she whispered, "your mother saved my life once." Ella's breath caught. "You knew her?" Victoria nodded, eyes shining. more than you know. Less extreme things often come quietly to teach us how to hold the heavy ones. The phone stopped ringing. The hallway went hush. Victoria guided Ella to a chair, and they both sat like two leaves on the same branch during a calm. "We met long ago," Victoria said softly. "She called me Vicky, and she always laughed after she made a serious face, like the sun hiding and then peeking out." The boss lady's fingers traced the edge of the photo. "I keep this so I don't forget who taught me what softness is." Ella's heart felt like a small bird again, but this time it was warming its feet on a quiet branch. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "Because I did not know how," Victoria admitted, "and because some names can wake sleeping trouble." She lifted her chin toward the door. Trouble like the kind that knocks without waiting. They sat in that soft pool of truth for a moment. Victoria told Ella a simple memory. A rainy afternoon at a bus stop. A woman in a blue dress sharing her umbrella with a stranger. Two girls becoming friends because kindness was larger than the weather. She did not say more, not yet. She just said, "Your mother was a light." Ella felt a warm ache spread in her chest like tea. But stories move like drums. After the soft beat, a loud one comes. The door shook, this time a punch instead of a knock. A man's voice, smooth and sharp, slid through the crack. "Mrs. Hayes, we won't wait any longer." The voice was the same one from the park, the man with the hawk's nose, Mr. Crane. Another voice joined, lower, official. "Open up, ma'am. We have papers." Papers can be as heavy as stones. Victoria stood, spine straight, and pulled a breath through her nose like a warrior preparing to step into dust. She looked at Ella, then at the photo, then at the window. "Listen to me," she said in a quick whisper. "Whatever happens, keep this close. If they see it, they will use it. And you—" Her voice cracked, then steadied. "You will hear things about me that sound cold. But remember the umbrella in the rain." The doorknob twisted hard. The lock groaned. Ella stood too. Her fingers were shaking so much she could hear the paper whisper. Mr. Crane's voice slid under the door again, now with a smile inside it. "Mrs. Hayes, your debts won't hide forever." Debts? Ella's eyes flew to Victoria. The boss lady's jaw tightened. "Go," she mouthed, pointing to the window curtains. Ella slipped behind them, heart flooding her ears. The fabric smelled like starch and a field after harvest. Through a thin gap, she saw Victoria cross to the door. The lock turned. The door opened. Two men stepped in. Mr. Crane in his gray suit and a uniformed officer with a clipboard and eyes that had seen too many small wars in people's houses. Behind them hovered a third man in a black jacket, security from the front gate who must have been bribed or bullied into this. The officer spoke first. "Mrs. Hayes, by order of the court, we're here to itemize assets for immediate collection. You have 72 hours to surrender specific items listed here." He held out a paper with seals and stamps that looked important, even if you could not read. Victoria took it with steady fingers. Mr. Crane's gaze raked the room like a broom with wire bristles. "Start with the study," he said. "Desks first. Drawers." Ella's breath froze. The photo was in her hand behind the curtain. If they opened the drawer and found it missing, would they search? Would they see the edge of paper shaking in her fingers? The officer walked toward the desk. Mr. Crane followed, his eyes darting like lizards in noon heat. Victoria stepped between them and the drawers. "Your list does not include private papers," she said. Mr. Crane smiled thin. "We both know everything here is collateral now." He reached past her toward the top drawer, the very one where the picture had lived like a secret bird in a wooden nest. And then the room cracked open with an extreme event. Mr. Crane's hand stopped, not because he chose to, but because Victoria grabbed his wrist, hard, and said in a voice that belonged to storms, "Touch that drawer, and you will pull back a stump." The officer stepped forward. The security man reached for his radio. The curtain brushed Ella's cheek like a scared friend. Outside, thunder rolled where no cloud had been a minute before. Mr. Crane smiled, but it was not a real smile. "Assaulting an officer of the court with words and hands," he said softly. "Careful, Mrs. Hayes, or we will do more than take papers." Victoria did not let go, her eyes cut like new glass. "I said," she breathed, each word a stone. "Leave my desk alone." Mr. Crane's other hand rose, slow and deliberate, and pointed toward the curtain where Ella hid. "Then perhaps we should start with what you are hiding," he murmured. The officer's eyes followed his finger. He took a step toward the window. The curtain shivered. Ella's heart hammered so hard she thought it might tear right through the fabric and land at the officer's feet. The photo in her hand felt hot, alive, dangerous, a small sun that could burn or save depending on who held it. The officer reached out. His fingers touched the curtain hem. And that is where we will pause this moment, here with the hem lifted, with truth and trouble breathing the same air, with a photograph in a poor maid's hand and a powerful man's eyes searching for a secret. So you can wonder what comes next and hold your breath with us until the next chapter opens the door. Before you go, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you want more stories like this, remember to like, subscribe, and share with a friend who loves a good folktale twist. The officer's fingers pinched the curtain hem and pulled it back in one swift motion. The golden fabric swung aside like a stage revealing its hidden actor. Ella stood frozen, her hands behind her back, clutching the photograph so tightly it bent. Her wide eyes met the officer's. For a heartbeat, the room went silent. Only the ticking clock dared to speak. "What is this?" Mr. Crane asked, his smile curving like a knife. "A little mouse in the boss lady's study?" His sharp gaze darted to Ella's trembling fists. "What are you holding, girl?" Ella's throat locked. Her voice came out dry as dust. Nothing, sir." She hid the photo tighter, pressing it against her apron. The officer stepped forward, but before he could pry her hands open, Victoria moved swiftly. She placed herself between them and Ella, her body like a shield. "She's my maid," Victoria said firmly. "And she's holding nothing that belongs to you. Your papers speak of furniture, jewelry, accounts, not of children and their keepsakes." Mr. Crane's eyes narrowed. He circled them slowly, like a hawk deciding where to strike. "Children and keepsakes," he repeated with a chuckle. "Funny how a woman drowning in debt still keeps secrets locked in drawers. Perhaps the secrets are worth more than the jewels." His gaze cut at Ella again. Victoria's jaw hardened. "She is 17. Show some decency." But Crane leaned closer, his breath sour like old coins. "Girl," he whispered, "if what you're hiding can save your mistress, I suggest you hand it over. Otherwise—" His words trailed, heavy with threat. The officer cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "Mr. Crane, we should stick to the list." But Crane raised a hand, silencing him. His eyes never left Ella. "Open your hands," he commanded. Ella's heart beat like a drum. If she showed them the photo, the secret would burst into the room, and she didn't yet know why Victoria feared it so. If she didn't, Crane might dig deeper, and things could turn worse. Her palms grew sweaty. The photograph's edges bit into her skin. Then Victoria spoke, her voice steady as a river cutting through stone. "You will not order my staff." She reached behind Ella and gently pried the girl's fingers open, not to expose the photo, but to slip it quickly into her own pocket, hidden from view. She turned to Crane with eyes cold as steel. "Satisfied?" she asked. Crane's smile cracked. He knew something had passed, but not what. "For now," he said, though his eyes promised he would return. He gestured to the officer. "Finish the itemization. We'll be back for more." The men left the study, boots echoing like thunder across the polished floors. The moment the door clicked shut, Ella gasped, her knees giving way. Victoria caught her before she collapsed, guiding her to the chair. "Breathe, child, just breathe." Ella's tears spilled freely. "Why do they want it? Why do you even have it? That's my mother's picture. That's my life. Please tell me the truth." Victoria pressed a trembling hand to her brow. For a long moment she said nothing, as if the words were locked behind a gate rusted with time. Then she whispered, "Your mother saved me once. But that's not all. She saved me in ways you can't yet imagine. And now, because of that, they will hunt what she left behind." Ella blinked through her tears. "What did she leave?" Victoria looked at the ceiling, eyes glassy. "A promise, and a treasure greater than gold. Something that Crane has chased for years. If he ever finds it,
He'll destroy everything.
Ella's breath caught. Treasure. Victoria nodded slowly. Your mother didn't die owing the world. She died leaving it a gift, and now it rests. With you. Before Ella could question further, Mrs. Dot hurried into the study, face pale. Ma'am, she whispered. They're searching the upstairs rooms, and the safe in your bedroom. Crane insists on seeing it. Victoria closed her eyes, pain flashing across her face. She squeezed Ella's hand. Stay here, she ordered. And no matter what you hear, do not move until I return. She rose, her silk scarf slipping from her shoulders like a fallen banner, and followed Mrs. Dot out. The study fell silent. Ella sat alone, her fingers trembling over the memory of the photograph. Her mind swirled with questions. What treasure? Why her mother? Why her? And then, an extreme event ripped the silence. From the upstairs hall came a crash, the sound of splintering wood, followed by Victoria's fierce voice shouting, Get out of my room! And then Crane's voice roaring back, Then tell me where it is! The whole house shook with the weight of the confrontation. Ella jumped to her feet. The walls of the big house no longer felt safe. They felt like drums carrying trouble straight to her ears. And in that instant, Ella realized something terrifying. Whatever her mother had left behind, whatever secret Victoria was guarding, Mr. Crane was willing to tear the house apart to find it. And if he couldn't, he would come for the only other person who might know. Ella herself. Now pause here, dear listener. What would you do if a stranger was hunting your late mother's secret through another woman's house? Would you run? Would you stay and fight? Or would you demand the truth, no matter the danger? Tell me, where are you watching from? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the truth finally bursts from the shadows. The sound of breaking wood echoed through the halls like thunder rolling too close. Ella froze in the study, clutching the armrest of the chair as though it could steady her heart. Upstairs, voices clashed. Victoria's sharp with fury, Crane's low and threatening. A door slammed, followed by the officer's barked orders. Then silence, thick and unnatural, like the pause before lightning strikes. Ella's instinct screamed, Run! But where could she go? Outside, Crane's men lingered near the gate. Inside, he prowled with authority papers. And Victoria, who held her mother's photo, was fighting alone. Her fingers brushed her apron pocket, still warm from where the photo had been. Even without it in her hand, Ella felt its weight. That picture was no longer just memory, it was a key, though she did not yet know to what. Footsteps pounded down the stairs. Ella darted behind the curtain again, peeking through the fabric. Crane appeared first, coat flaring behind him. His face was tight, but his eyes glowed with ugly satisfaction. The officer followed, carrying a list scribbled in haste. Victoria came last, her scarf missing, her hair slightly undone, cheeks flushed, but her chin was high, her eyes blazing. You won't stop me, Crane hissed, pointing at her. You think you can hide it forever? I'll tear down these walls brick by brick until it's mine. Victoria stood firm, though Ella saw her hands trembling at her sides. My house is not your hunting ground, Crane. Leave before you regret it. Crane smirked, then leaned close, lowering his voice so only Victoria could hear. But Ella, straining from her hiding place, caught the words. Remember, Ruth isn't here to save you this time. Victoria's face paled, and Ella's stomach flipped. He knew her mother? Crane turned to the officer. We're done for today. File the report. We'll return with enforcement. He stalked out, boots striking like nails against the floor. The officer followed with hesitation, his eyes lingering on Victoria as if silently apologizing. The moment the front door slammed shut, Victoria collapsed into a chair, her strength pouring out of her like water from a broken jug. Mrs. Dot rushed in, wringing her hands. Ma'am, are you all right? That man, he's the devil in a fine suit. Victoria waved her off weakly. He won't stop. He never does. She pressed her palms to her eyes, whispering words Ella could not catch. Ella's heart pounded. She could no longer stay hidden. She stepped out from behind the curtain, her legs trembling but her voice steady. You must tell me the truth now. Victoria's head snapped up, her eyes locking on Ella. For a moment pain flickered there, then resolve. You shouldn't have seen that photo, she said softly. But maybe it was time. Ella stepped closer, tears already filling her eyes. Why did he say my mother's name? Why did he call her Ruth? Victoria rose slowly, her shadow stretching long in the dim light. Because your mother and I were once bound by something larger than friendship, something that man has chased ever since. Ella's breath caught. What was it? Victoria's lips parted as if to answer. Then the front gate outside slammed, followed by the roar of a car engine peeling away. Mrs. Dot peered through the window. They've gone. For now. Relief washed the room, but only for a heartbeat. Victoria turned back to Ella. Listen, child. What your mother left behind is dangerous to men like Crane because it's powerful, but it's also fragile. And now that he's seen you... She broke off, shaking her head. You're no longer safe. Ella felt her knees weaken. Safe? Why me? Victoria's eyes glistened. Because, Ella, your mother didn't just leave memories. She left you something only you can claim. Crane knows it. That's why he'll keep coming. Ella's throat tightened. What did she leave me? Victoria stepped closer, her hand brushing Ella's cheek like a mother's touch. A legacy, and a map. But before I can explain, you must promise me something. Never, under any circumstance, let Crane see that photograph again. If he does, he'll know exactly where to look. Ella's mind spun. Legacy? Map? She wanted answers, but fear wrapped around her ribs like a snake. Where to look for what? Victoria opened her mouth to answer, but just then, the sharp crack of shattering glass split the night. The three women gasped. From the back of the house, a window had been smashed open. Heavy boots thudded against the kitchen floor. Voices growled low and urgent. Crane hadn't left after all. He had doubled back. Victoria's face hardened into steel. He's here. And just like that, the extreme moment arrived. Crane's men were inside the house and the hunt had begun. Where are you watching from tonight? Drop it in the comments below. And if you're hooked by Ella's fight to protect her mother's secret, like this video and share it so others can join us. The sound of boots echoed like war drums through the kitchen tiles. Ella clutched Victoria's arm, her breath trembling. Mrs. Dot whispered a prayer under her breath, her wrinkled fingers twisting the edge of her apron. Victoria snapped into action. Her voice was low but sharp like the cut of a blade. Both of you, come with me. She pulled Ella by the wrist, moving swiftly out of the study. They hurried down the hall, past the dining room where portraits of solemn ancestors hung, their painted eyes following the commotion. From the kitchen came the scraping of chairs pushed aside, then a man's voice growling, "Search everywhere! She's hiding it!" Another voice answered, "Check the study again!" Ella's chest tightened. The photo. The drawer. If they searched and saw it missing, they would know. Victoria seemed to read her thoughts. She stopped suddenly at a door hidden under the staircase. From her blouse, she pulled a small silver key and unlocked it with practiced speed. Behind the door lay a narrow staircase leading downward into shadows. Mrs. Dot's eyes widened. "Ma'am, no one's been down there in years." "Exactly," Victoria hissed. "That's why it's safe. For now." She ushered them inside. The staircase groaned under their weight as they descended into a cold cellar that smelled of dust, stone, and old secrets. A single bulb swung overhead, throwing restless shadows on the walls. Ella shivered. "Why do you have a place like this?" Victoria's face was grim. "Because some truths can't live in sunlight." She moved to a wooden chest in the corner, its iron edges rusted, its lid scarred. She pressed her palm against it, whispering something Ella couldn't hear. Above them, footsteps stormed through the halls. A crash followed. The sound of a drawer ripped open. Crane's furious voice rang out. "She's taken it! Find the girl!" Ella flinched. Her heart galloped. They were looking for her. Victoria turned to her, eyes blazing. "Do you understand now? He won't stop until he has you in his grip." Ella's voice cracked. "But why me? What did Mama leave?" Victoria knelt before the chest, fingers trembling as she worked the lock. "Ruth left behind more than a photo. She left you a key to something hidden, something Crane has hunted for decades. He believes it will make him powerful. Your mother believed it would free people from his kind of greed." The chest creaked open. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, worn and fragile. Victoria lifted it carefully, brushing away years of dust. She held it out to Ella. This is hers. Every secret, every step, every map. It belongs to you now. Ella touched the cover with trembling fingers. It was warm, almost alive. But before she could open it, a roar echoed from upstairs. "Basement!" one of Crane's men shouted. "She's down there!" Heavy boots pounded toward the hidden staircase. The bulb above them swung harder, shadows leaping like frightened animals. Victoria slammed the chest shut and pulled Ella to her feet. "Quick, through the back passage!" She pointed to a small door at the far end of the cellar, half hidden behind crates. Mrs. Dot scrambled toward it, fumbling with the latch. "It leads to the old garden shed," she whispered. "We can slip out behind the hedges." But just as she yanked the door open, the cellar entrance above crashed wide. Mr. Crane appeared at the top of the stairs, his silhouette black against the dim light, his eyes locked on them, glittering with triumph. "There you are," he purred, starting down the steps slowly, each one deliberate. The officer and two men followed close behind, their flashlights slicing the dark. Ella clutched the journal to her chest, her knees weak. Crane's smile widened. "And what's this? A girl with a book? Hand it over, and perhaps I'll let you keep your little lives." Victoria stepped in front of Ella, arms spread wide like a shield. "Over my dead body." Crane stopped halfway down the stairs, tilting his head. "That can be arranged." He gestured, and one of his men reached into his coat. Metal glinted in the light. Ella gasped. Mrs. Dot screamed. Victoria's jaw clenched, the cellar filled with tension so thick it seemed to strangle the air. Then, in one bold motion, Ella cried out, "Run!" and darted through the side passage, clutching the journal. The men shouted, Crane roared, and the chase began. Now pause with me here, dear listener. If you were Ella, holding your mother's secrets in your hands while dangerous men closed in, would you run into the night? Or would you stay and fight beside Victoria? Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss. The night air struck Ella's face like cold water as she burst from the cellar passage into the overgrown garden. She clutched the journal to her chest, her legs pumping harder than they ever had before. Behind her, angry shouts tore through the darkness. Crane's men were close, their flashlights sweeping like hunting spears across the hedges. "Stop her!" Crane's voice bellowed, harsh and commanding. Ella darted past the broken fountain at the back of the house. The lily pads quivered as her foot splashed in the shallow water. She slipped but regained her balance, forcing her legs to keep running. The journal felt heavier with every step, as though her mother's words inside it knew the danger. From behind, she heard Mrs. Dot's frightened cry and Victoria's fierce command, "Leave her alone, Crane!" But the footsteps of the men thundered closer, closing in. Ella ducked under a low branch and crawled through a gap in the hedge, scraping her arms. She stumbled into the side path where the moonlight pooled faintly on gravel. Her lungs burned, but she kept going. "I can't let them take this," she thought, clutching the journal tighter. "Mama, guide me." Suddenly, a hand shot out from the shadows and grabbed her arm. Ella screamed, but the hand clamped over her mouth. She kicked wildly, but the grip was strong. A voice whispered in her ear, urgent and low. "Shh, quiet, girl. It's me." Ella twisted her head. The moonlight revealed the face of the uniformed officer, the same one who had followed Crane earlier. His eyes looked different now, troubled, not cruel. "Listen to me," he whispered. "If Crane gets that book, he'll burn this whole town to ashes for what's inside. You must keep it safe." Ella's eyes widened. She struggled to speak through his hand. Slowly, he let go. Why are you helping me?" she gasped. The officer's jaw tightened. "Because your mother once saved my sister's life. I owed Ruth a debt. Now it's time to repay it." Before Ella could respond, a beam of light swept across the path. Crane's voice echoed. "There! She's over there!" The officer cursed under his breath. He pulled Ella toward a side alley that led away from the mansion grounds. "Go! Run as far as you can. Hide that book. I'll hold them off." But Ella hesitated, torn between fleeing and not wanting to leave Victoria and Mrs. Dot behind. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "What about them?" The officer's face hardened with urgency. "They'll stall him. You're the one he wants. If you stay, you'll doom them too." A flashlight beam hit the officer squarely in the back. Crane's men shouted, "Stop!" The officer shoved Ella forward. "Run, girl, run!" And so she ran. Barefoot now, her shoes lost in the scramble, she sprinted down the gravel path, across the dark meadow beyond the mansion, clutching the journal to her chest as though it were her heartbeat. Behind her, shouts rose, and she heard a struggle. The officers grunt, men yelling, Crane roaring in fury. Ella didn't look back. The meadow opened into a dirt road that led toward the old church at the edge of town. Its steeple pointed to the sky like a finger of hope. She stumbled toward it, her chest heaving, but just as she reached the church gates, a shadow stepped out of the darkness. A tall figure, blocking her path. It wasn't Crane. It wasn't the officer. It was Victoria. Her scarf was torn, her eyes fierce, but she stood like a queen guarding her crown. "You did well, Ella," she whispered. "But we are not safe yet. There's something in that journal you must see before the night ends." Ella's voice shook. "What is it?" Victoria glanced over her shoulder at the road. The distant roar of engines told them Crane's men were still searching. She turned back, her eyes burning. "Your mother left a map," Victoria said. "A map to the one thing Crane fears most, and it's hidden where only you can find it." Ella's hands trembled as she looked down at the leather cover. The edges of the journal seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, as if daring her to open it. But before she could, headlights flared on the road behind them. A black car screeched to a halt. Crane stepped out, his shadow long and monstrous. His voice sliced the night. "Give me the book, or you'll both regret ever being born." The extreme moment had come again. The enemy at their heels, the secret in Ella's hands, and a choice that could change everything. What would you do if your mother's secret was the only shield against a man like Crane? Hide it, run with it, or open it right there under the moon? Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss. The car's headlights glared so brightly that Ella had to shield her eyes with one hand while holding the journal tight against her chest with the other. The beams made the churchyard glow ghostly white, every gravestone casting long shadows like watchful sentinels. Crane stepped forward, his gray suit sharp even in the dust of the road. His hawk-like nose caught the light, and his smile was thin, wicked, and full of triumph. Two men flanked him, each holding flashlights and heavy sticks. "Enough games," Crane growled, his voice slicing the silence. "Give me the book, girl, and maybe I'll let you live to see sunrise." Ella's knees buckled, but Victoria steadied her by the shoulder. "Don't listen to him," Victoria whispered fiercely. "Your mother didn't suffer to have her gift stolen by a vulture like him." Crane chuckled, stepping closer. "Gift? Is that what you call it? Ruth's little treasure is more than a gift. It's power. Power to buy cities, power to ruin empires. And now—" He stretched out his hand, palm up, like a serpent offering fruit. "It belongs to me." Ella clutched the journal tighter, her heart pounding so loud she thought Crane might hear it. "Why? Why do you want it so badly? What's in it?" Crane's eyes glittered, cruel and hungry. "The map, girl. The map to Ruth's inheritance. The kind of fortune your little mind can't even imagine." She thought she could hide it forever in ink and riddles, but nothing hides from me. "Hand it over, and I'll show you what real power looks like." Victoria stepped between him and Ella, her scarf whipping in the night breeze like a banner of defiance. "You'll have to go through me first." Crane's grin widened. "Gladly." He raised his hand, and his men began to advance. Ella's chest tightened, her hand shook. She thought of her mother, smiling in that faded photograph. She thought of the lullaby Ruth used to sing, "Little river, carry me home." And suddenly, courage bloomed in her heart like fire. "No," she cried, stepping forward beside Victoria. "This book isn't yours, and it never will be." She fumbled with the leather strap and flung the journal open. The wind caught its fragile pages, fluttering them wildly until one page lay flat under the moonlight. Strange symbols and hand-drawn sketches glowed faintly, as though the ink itself carried light. A map of rivers, hills, and a tree marked with a cross at its roots. Crane's eyes widened, his mask of calm cracking for the first time. "There it is," he whispered hoarsely. "The tree of inheritance. I knew it was real." He lunged forward, but Victoria shoved Ella behind her. "Run!" she shouted. Ella turned toward the church door. clutching the journal, but a hand grabbed her arm. One of Crane's men. She screamed, struggling, kicking, the journal almost slipping from her grasp. "Let her go!" Victoria roared, striking the man with a fallen branch she snatched from the ground. He howled in pain, loosening his grip long enough for Ella to break free. The second man lunged at Victoria, and she fought like a lioness, but Crane kept coming, his eyes locked on Ella like a predator closing in. Ella stumbled up the church steps, pushing the heavy wooden door with all her strength. It groaned open, and she darted inside, her footsteps echoing across the stone floor. Candles flickered weakly at the altar, casting a dim glow. She hid behind a pew, clutching the journal to her chest. Through the open doorway, she heard Crane's furious voice. "Search the church. She won't escape me this time." The air inside felt thick, sacred, yet heavy with fear. Ella pressed her forehead against the leather cover of the journal and whispered, "Mama, please, help me now." And then, an extreme event shattered the silence. From the back of the church, a hidden door creaked open, and an old man with silver hair and piercing eyes stepped out of the shadows. His voice was calm, but powerful. "Ruth's child," he said, his gaze fixed on Ella. "At last you've come. Your mother knew this night would arrive." Ella's breath caught. You knew my mother?" The old man nodded slowly. "I was her keeper, and now I am yours." Before Ella could ask another word, Crane's footsteps stormed into the church, echoing off the stone walls. His voice was venomous. "Find her! The book is mine!" Ella's heart pounded. She was caught between two mysteries, Crane's shadow growing closer and the old man who claimed to know her mother's secrets. If you were Ella, would you trust the old stranger who suddenly appeared? Or would you run from him too? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss. The church's stone walls trembled with every step Crane's men took. Their flashlights cut through the shadows, beams crawling like snakes over pews and crosses. Ella's chest rose and fell quickly as she crouched low behind the pew, clutching the journal so tightly her knuckles turned white. The old man with silver hair stepped closer, his movements calm and steady. His robe was simple, and his voice, though hushed, carried the weight of command. "Don't be afraid, child. Your mother left me to guide you when this moment came." Ella's voice cracked as she whispered back, "Who are you?" "My name is Father Samuel," he said. "Your mother trusted me with her greatest secret. That book you hold is not just a journal. It is the map to her legacy, and only her blood can unlock it fully." Ella blinked. "Her blood? You mean me?" The priest nodded solemnly. "Yes, Ella. You are the key." Before Ella could ask more, Crane's voice rang through the church, echoing like thunder. "Search every corner. She's here. I can smell the fear on her." Flashlight beams swung closer. One landed just a few pews away. Ella's pulse quickened. Father Samuel's eyes flicked to a trapdoor beneath the altar. "Quickly," he whispered. "Follow me." He hurried toward it, his steps soundless on the stone floor. Ella hesitated only a second before running after him. Together, they lifted the heavy wooden hatch, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness. Just as they slipped inside, one of Crane's men shouted, "There! By the altar!" Ella gasped as flashlights blinded her. The trapdoor slammed shut, just as heavy boots pounded up the aisle. She and Father Samuel descended quickly, their breaths mingling in the cold air of the underground passage. The passage smelled of earth and age. Torches on the walls flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows. The old man carried a lantern, its glow illuminating carvings on the stone walls, symbols like those in her mother's journal. Ella traced one with her finger as she ran. These are the same as in the book." Father Samuel nodded. "Your mother marked this path long ago. She knew one day you would walk it." Behind them, the trapdoor crashed open. Crane's furious shout echoed down the tunnel. "After them! Don't let the girl escape!" Ella's heart hammered. Her legs burned as they ran deeper. The tunnel twisted and narrowed until it opened into a wide chamber underground. In the center stood a stone pedestal, and carved into it was the image of a great tree. The same tree from the journal's map. Father Samuel lifted the lantern high. "This is the beginning," he said solemnly. "The tree of inheritance. Your mother left the path to it here, but only you can awaken it." Ella approached the pedestal, her hands trembling. She opened the journal to the glowing map page. The ink shimmered faintly under the lantern light. She placed the book on the stone, and suddenly, the carvings on the pedestal pulsed with light, like roots glowing beneath the earth. Her breath caught. "It's alive." Father Samuel bowed his head. "Your mother's bloodline carries the right to reveal it. Speak her name, child." Ella swallowed hard, her voice shaking. "Ruth Hayes. My mother." The pedestal glowed brighter. Lines of light spread outward across the chamber floor, forming a new map that led further underground. Ella gasped, but before she could take it in, a harsh voice echoed through the tunnel entrance. "Found you." Crane stepped into the chamber, his men behind him, weapons gleaming in the lantern light. His eyes fell on the glowing pedestal, and his lips curled into a hungry smile. At last, after all these years. Ella stumbled back, clutching the journal. Father Samuel raised the lantern high like a shield. "Stay back, Crane. This legacy was never meant for your greed." Crane laughed, low and cruel. "Legacy? No, priest, it's wealth. Enough to buy nations, and it will be mine." He pointed at Ella. "Hand over the girl, and maybe I'll leave the rest of you breathing." The chamber trembled, the glowing lines pulsing brighter as if the ground itself rejected his presence. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ella's heart pounded. She looked at the glowing map, then at Crane's advancing shadow. And in that instant, she knew. The secret her mother left could no longer stay hidden. The choice she made now would change everything. What would you do in Ella's place? Trust the map and run deeper into the tunnels, or stand and fight to protect it? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss. The chamber shook as if the earth itself knew danger had arrived. Dust fell in small showers from the ceiling, and the glowing lines on the floor pulsed brighter, spreading like veins of light deeper into the tunnel. Ella's hands shook, the journal pressed tight against her chest. Crane's shadow stretched across the chamber floor, long and menacing, his smile sharper than the knives his men carried. "Now, girl," Crane hissed, "be smart. Give me the book, and I'll make this quick. Resist me," and he snapped his fingers. One of his men stepped forward, raising a metal rod. The sound of it scraping the stone made Ella's skin crawl. But before he could strike, Father Samuel moved in front of Ella, holding the lantern high. "Enough, Crane. You cannot bully your way into what was never yours. Ruth's gift is sacred. It belongs only to her bloodline." Crane's eyes burned with greed. "Sacred? No, old man. It's a key to fortune, and fortune bends the world. Step aside before I grind your bones to dust." The glowing pedestal pulsed again, brighter this time, almost blinding. Ella squinted, clutching the journal tighter. Something stirred inside her, a memory of her mother's voice, soft and strong, whispering the lullaby. "Little river, carry me home." The words hummed in her chest like a hidden strength waiting to be called. Her lips moved almost without her meaning to. "Little river, carry me home." As soon as the words left her mouth, the glowing lines on the floor surged like water rushing through veins. The chamber roared with light, and the stone pedestal split open with a grinding sound, revealing a hidden stairway spiraling downward into deeper darkness. Crane's face twisted in shock, then delight. There, the path. He lunged forward, shoving Father Samuel aside. "After her," he barked to his men. Ella hesitated, frozen between fear and awe. Father Samuel grabbed her arm. "Go, child. That stair is meant for you alone. If he follows, the earth itself will test him, and he will fail." But Crane was already pushing his way to the front. His men charged toward the stairway, weapons raised. Ella's chest heaved. She looked once at Father Samuel, then at the glowing stair. She ran. Her footsteps echoed as she descended. The journal still clutched against her. The air grew colder, damper, filled with the scent of earth and old stone. Behind her, Crane's men tried to follow, but the stair trembled under their weight. The walls shook violently, throwing them against the stone. One cried out as the step beneath him crumbled, swallowing him into a pit of darkness. The others hesitated, fear flashing across their faces. But Crane kept coming, his eyes locked on Ella like a predator. "Run all you want, girl," he called, his voice booming down the tunnel. "You can't escape me. That treasure is mine." Ella stumbled into a vast cavern at the bottom of the stairs. Her breath caught. In the center grew a massive tree, its roots embedded in glowing stone, its branches stretching upward like arms praising the heavens. The bark shimmered faintly, and golden fruit hung heavy, glowing like lanterns in the dark. The tree of inheritance. Her knees went weak. "Mama, you weren't telling stories." Father Samuel's voice echoed behind her. "This is your mother's legacy, Ella. Each fruit holds more than wealth. It holds wisdom, healing, and truth. That's why Crane wants it, because power without kindness corrupts." But there was no time for wonder. Crane burst into the cavern, his suit torn from the struggle, his eyes wild. "At last!" he shouted, stretching out his hand toward the glowing fruit. Ella's heart thundered. She stood between him and the tree, her body shaking but her feet refusing to move. "No," she whispered, then louder. "No, this is my mother's gift, and you will never touch it." Crane sneered. "Child, you can't stop me." He shoved past her, reaching toward the lowest branch. The moment his hand brushed the glowing fruit, the tree shuddered violently. A burst of light shot out, throwing Crane backward onto the stone floor. His scream echoed as the fruit burned his palm, leaving it blackened and smoking. He writhed, clutching his hand, his eyes wide with terror. Father Samuel's voice boomed. "Only the rightful heir may take from the tree. Greed will always be punished." Ella's breath caught. The tree's glow softened, and one golden fruit lowered itself gently, hanging just above her reach as if offering itself. Her hand trembled as she stretched toward it. But before her fingers could touch the fruit, Crane staggered back to his feet, his face twisted in rage. "If I can't have it," he snarled, pulling a weapon from his coat, "then no one will." He aimed it at the roots of the tree. Ella gasped. "No!" The chamber shook again, dust raining down from the ceiling. Father Samuel pulled Ella back. "This is the test, child. Stand firm." And in that moment, the extreme event struck. Crane pulled the trigger, and the weapon's blast ripped toward the glowing roots of the tree of inheritance. If you were Ella, standing before a weapon aimed at your mother's sacred legacy, would you grab the fruit now or risk everything to shield the tree? Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss. The weapon's blast struck the roots of the tree of inheritance with a deafening crack. Light exploded across the cavern, the ground shaking as if the earth itself roared in pain. Fragments of glowing stone splintered into the air. Ella screamed, clutching the journal to her chest while Father Samuel pulled her away from the shockwave. The tree groaned, a sound deep and mournful, like a giant crying. Its branches shivered, and golden fruit trembled as if about to fall. Crane laughed, wild and broken, his burned hand gripping the weapon tightly. "If I can't own it, I'll destroy it," he shouted. "No one will benefit from Ruth's legacy." "No!" Ella cried, her voice raw. She broke free from Father Samuel's grasp and ran to the tree. Her hands pressed against its glowing bark. Heat surged into her palms, but instead of burning, it filled her with warmth, like her mother's embrace on a cold night. "Mama," she whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. "Don't let it end like this." The tree's glow surged at her touch. Light raced up its trunk, into its branches, and then down through its roots, sealing the cracks Crane's weapon had made. The cavern pulsed with life. Crane staggered back, shielding his eyes from the brilliance. Father Samuel fell to his knees, awe shining in his old eyes. "She's awakened it," he whispered. "The heir of Ruth has spoken." Ella gasped as a voice echoed in her heart, not out loud, but inside her very soul. It was her mother's voice, calm and strong. "My child, you are the guardian now. Protect the tree, and it will protect you." Her tears came faster. "Mama!" The golden fruit lowered again, but this time more firmly, glowing brighter as if insisting she take it. With trembling hands, Ella reached out. The moment her fingers closed around it, the cavern filled with thunderous light. The fruit melted into her palms, sinking into her skin, leaving behind a golden mark shaped like a small leaf. Power coursed through her veins, not power of greed, but of courage. wisdom, and kindness. The tree's glow steadied, brighter and stronger than before. Crane's laughter died. He stared at Ella, his face pale with rage. No, no, it can't be you. A maid? A worthless servant girl? You can't hold it. Ella turned to him, her eyes blazing with a new light. I'm not worthless, she said, her voice steady. I am Ruth's daughter, and this legacy is not for your greed. It's for those who need hope. Crane's face twisted, and with a roar he raised his weapon again. But before he could fire, the ground beneath him cracked open. The glowing lines on the cavern floor pulsed violently, rejecting him. His men screamed as the earth split, and they stumbled back toward the stairway. Crane tried to steady himself, but the stone crumbled beneath his feet. "Help me!" he shouted, his eyes wild with terror. "Save me!" Ella's chest tightened. She saw the man who had caused her so much fear now dangling on the edge of ruin. The journal pressed against her heart, and her mother's voice echoed again. Kindness is strength, even when the world does not deserve it. She stepped forward, extending her hand. "Take it," she shouted, "before it's too late." For a moment, Crane hesitated, disbelief flashing in his eyes. He reached out, and then, just as Ella's fingers brushed his greed twisted his face. Instead of taking her hand, he lunged for the journal clutched against her chest. The moment he touched it, the cavern roared. The journal burned in his hands, and the tree's light surged against him like a wave. With a scream, Crane was thrown backward into the pit, swallowed by darkness. The cavern fell silent, except for the echo of his cry fading into nothing. Ella collapsed to her knees, shaking, tears flowing freely. Father Samuel rushed to her side, his old hands steady on her shoulders. "You chose mercy, even when he did not deserve it," he said softly. "That is why the tree accepted you." Ella stared at the glowing roots, her chest rising and falling. She looked down at the journal, now warm and pulsing like a heartbeat. The golden mark on her palm glowed faintly. She realized with a shiver, her life would never be the same. Father Samuel's voice broke the silence. "The fruit you hold is not for riches, Ella. It is for healing, for wisdom, for lifting others out of despair. Your mother wanted you to carry this light into the world." Ella wiped her tears, nodding slowly. "Then that's what I'll do." Her voice grew steadier. "I'll honor her." The cavern's glow softened into a gentle calm. The danger passed. But Ella knew this was not the end. Crane might be gone, but others like him would come. And now the burden of protecting her mother's legacy rested on her shoulders. She stood, her golden mark gleaming, and whispered, "I'm ready." But just as peace began to settle, a low rumble shook the chamber again. The stairway they had descended crumbled, sealing shut with falling stone. Father Samuel's face grew pale. "There's only one way out now," he said, pointing to a dark tunnel behind the tree. "But it leads somewhere even I have never gone." Ella tightened her grip on the journal. The glow from her palm lit the way ahead. She nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then that's where we go." If you were Ella, would you dare to step into a tunnel no one has walked before, with only your mother's legacy to guide you? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss. The cavern's silence pressed heavy after the stairway collapsed behind them, sealing off the world above. Dust hung in the air like ghostly mist. Ella stood clutching the journal, the golden leaf mark on her palm glowing faintly, her only torch in the deep dark. Father Samuel's lantern flickered weakly, almost bowing to the brighter light in Ella's hand. He looked at her with quiet awe. "The tree has chosen you, child. Now the path ahead is yours alone to lead." Ella nodded, though her legs trembled. She glanced at the tunnel yawning open behind the tree of inheritance. Its mouth was black, wide, and endless, as though it could swallow them whole. Still, she stepped forward. "Mama trusted me with this," she whispered. "I won't fail her." They entered the tunnel. The walls were damp, carved with more of the strange glowing symbols. Each one flared to life as Ella passed, responding to the light on her palm. It was as if her mother's spirit walked with her, guiding each step. After what felt like hours, the tunnel widened into a vast chamber. In the center stood a pool of crystal water, perfectly still. On the far side, a stone archway glowed with soft golden light. It looked like a doorway to the world above, but the pool wasn't ordinary. Carved words shimmered on the water's surface. Only the pure of heart may cross. The water will test what is true. Ella's breath caught. Test. Father Samuel's face grew grave. The water sees beyond lies. If you step in with fear, hatred, or greed, it will consume you. If you step in with faith, it will carry you through. Ella stared at her reflection. She saw her tired eyes, her tear-streaked face, her shaking hands, but she also saw something else, the mark on her palm glowing steady, and behind her reflection, faintly, her mother's smile. She clenched her fists. "I'm ready." Stepping forward, she lowered her foot into the pool. The water rippled, glowing beneath her toes. For a moment, she feared she would sink. But the glow spread, and the water hardened beneath her feet, carrying her like solid ground. Father Samuel gasped softly. "She is chosen indeed." Ella crossed slowly, her eyes fixed on the glowing archway ahead. Halfway across, though, the water darkened. A voice hissed up from the depths. Crane's voice. "You can't escape me, girl. You think defeating me once ends it? Greed never dies. It waits in shadows." Shadows writhed beneath the surface, forming Crane's twisted face, reaching up with clawed hands. Ella froze, terror gripping her chest. But then she remembered her mother's words. Kindness is strength. She lifted her palm and whispered, "I forgive you." The golden mark flared, and the shadows screamed, dissolving back into stillness. The pool glowed bright again, and Ella's path cleared. At last she stepped onto the far side, standing before the golden arch. The stone hummed with energy. Father Samuel bowed deeply. "Your journey begins now, Ella. Ruth's legacy is alive in you. Take it to the world above and guard it well." Ella looked back at the glowing tree, at the cavern that had nearly swallowed her whole. Then she looked at the journal, warm against her chest, and at the golden light marking her palm. She drew a deep breath. "I will," she said firmly. "For Mama. For everyone who needs hope." She stepped through the archway. Light swallowed her. When she opened her eyes, she was standing outside the church, dawn breaking on the horizon. The town lay quiet beneath the rising sun, the air cool and fresh. Birds sang. For the first time in her life, Ella felt both the weight and the wonder of destiny. Beside her, Father Samuel emerged, his lantern extinguished. He smiled faintly. "It begins again." Ella turned her face to the sunrise. Her heart was still heavy with grief, but lighter with purpose. She whispered softly, "Mama, I'll carry your light. Always." And as the sun rose higher, the golden leaf mark on her palm glowed brighter, a promise that Ruth's legacy lived on, not as treasure for greed, but as hope for the world. And so, dear listener, Ella's journey ends here, but also begins anew. She was just a poor maid when this story started, but she became the guardian of her mother's legacy, stronger than she ever believed she could be. Now let me ask you, if you carried a light like Ella's, would you use it for yourself or to lift others up? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this folktale. There are many more stories waiting, stories of hope, courage, and the power of kindness.